Knowledge, which is power, knows no limits either in its enslavement of creation or in its deference to worldly masters. Fyodor Adorno has famously noted. Then who are we to restrict knowledge to professions and academic courses? Esteemed members of the panel, our faculty members, parents, and students, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the commencement lecture for the program of BA Honours in Legal Studies. I'm Lakshmi Srinivasan, the Assistant Lecturer and Faculty Coordinator for Examinations and Assessments for this program, and I have the honor of presenting this event today. I will be joined by my colleague, Ms. Kanika Jamwal, Assistant Lecturer and Faculty Coordinator for this program at the Office of Student Affairs and Initiatives in presenting this event. It is my pleasure to welcome our first speaker for this evening, Professor S.G. Srijit. Professor Srijit is the Executive Dean for Jindal Global Law School, OP Jindal Global University. Sir, may I request you to deliver the welcome address?
Thank you. Thank you. Dear everyone, good evening. This is a commencement truly in all sense, as it's the first commencement lecture of BA Honours in Legal Studies program of Jindal Global Law School. As the commencement speaker, we have Professor Marc Miller, a great supporter of JGU and partner in many collaborations. He's the Dean and Ralph W. Bilby Professor, James A. Rogers College of Law, University of Arizona. We have also with us Professor C. Rajkumar, our legendary Vice Chancellor and Dean of Jindal Global Law School, whose determined efforts and sky-high ambitions have us the Jindal Global Law School and its brilliant program, BA Honours in Legal Studies. We have also with us our dearest students, the batch of 2020 and their parents, our Registrar, Professor Sridhar Patnaik, the Director of Undergraduate Programs, Professor Karan Latyan, and the Director of Law Admissions, Professor Anand Prakash Mishra. I also acknowledge the graceful presence of my young colleagues, Ms. Kanika Jamwal and Ms. Lakshmi Srinivasan, lecturers, Jindal Global Law School, and the masters of this ceremony. I welcome you all to the commencement lecture on the theme, Law is Everywhere, the need for more paths in legal education and practice. I'm very fascinated by the theme of the lecture as it refers to the ubiquitousness of law. We call law ubiquitous as law looms large in our imaginations. We see it, we feel it, we receive it. No matter whether law comes as a normative guidance of a rule, as a categorical imperative, as information essential to make a rational choice, or as a flicker of the ontological self, the fact is that it is everywhere, in all forms, in all substance. This plurality of the law had not always been this obvious as it is in contemporary times. There was a time, to be exact, the time when I went to law school, when the province of law was strictly defined to perhaps a few parochial considerations. It was not the case that law was singular then, but it was the case that plurality of law did not strike imaginations hard. But then the modernity fell, giving us the illusions of postmodernity. World began to experience tectonic shifts in human thought and action. In order to comprehend the world, singular understanding of anything will not suffice today. We need to know things in their plurality, in their totality. Law cannot be found lying here, there, or somewhere. Rather, it's everywhere in every form. Professor Miller, a visionary dean of a law school, perhaps the only law school in the United States which runs a program in legal studies, will tell you in great detail about the plurality of law and legal imagination in our times. In the scheme of things, legal studies, please note, I did not say law. I said legal studies is the world around the law. It is a meta-eye to know the world of law. It's a vantage point to see the landscape of law. Legal studies is that magical lens which will help you identify law as it meets you everywhere, every time, in every form. Once more, I welcome you all to this commencement lecture and to the Jindal Global Law School. In fact, law is everywhere in JGLS as well, in public policy, in business studies, in financial analysis, in international relations, in liberal arts, in journalism, and in arts and architecture, and in environmental studies. I'm Srijit SG, your Executive Dean, always at your service. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insightful address. Making a difference to the country and our society has always been the aim and priority of our esteemed institution. To elaborate, it's my privilege to welcome our Honorable Founding Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University and the Dean of Jindal Global Law School, Professor C. Rajkumar. Sir, may I request you to share the journey of this university and the law school and also introduce our esteemed guest today.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi, for that. Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate all the students who have joined the BA Honours in Legal Studies at Jindal Global Law School. I want to congratulate you for very many things. First of all, I would like to congratulate you because you have completed your high school studies, a very important milestone in your own life, and also to be able to, have that sense of resilience and to be part of your own, evolution and your own future. You barely completed your high school studies and your examinations. Your results came through. You could not have a real vacation, could not spend time with your friends. And here you are embarking on a new journey of beginning the new academic session in a new environment without even physically visiting the campus of the university that you are going to be part of. Now that shows enormous grit, determination, courage of conviction, and indeed a deep sense of resilience. So I want to congratulate each one of you for being that leader in yourself, to be able to be part of this institution, but also not to let the global health crisis in the form of the COVID-19 pandemic to affect you, undermine you, in many ways discourage you to pursue your own goals and aspirations. This is also a moment for me to thank your parents on your behalf, but also to make them, feel why this moment is important. Because obviously they have supported you all these years, your family members and others, because after all, your success would not have been possible but for the contribution of each one of them who have indeed inspired you and encouraged you and supported you all these years. I also want to say that embarking a university education just after your high school studies is a very big responsibility. For the first time in life, you are going to see a lot more freedom as you will join and move into the fully residential campus of our university. You will witness enormous freedom that you had not experienced before. Most of you, if not all of you, would have been largely in home environments most parts of your life, barring the ones who have probably studied in a boarding school. Nevertheless, you were to a large extent, dealing with a fairly regimented environment. But for the first time in your entire life, you're going to be part of an institutional ecosystem in which you will experience a lot more freedom. And with freedom comes responsibility. And that's something which you will experience as you move into the campus. Today is a very special day in our history. In fact, this is one of the most special occasions in our 11-year history. We began the first academic session of the first school of the university, Jindal Global Law School, on 30th September 2009 with little over 100 students and nearly 10 plus faculty members. We never look back since then, and the last 11 years has seen an extraordinary expansion when it comes to the evolution of the university on the one hand, with 1 school to 9 schools, 100 students to nearly 6,500 students, 10 faculty members to 600 faculty members. But the evolution of the campus also is quite an extraordinary story. But in all of these evolutions, the most important part of this evolution is what you are going to experience, the evolution of the Jindal Global Law School itself. Today, we are embarking on a new journey, a journey in which we have launched a new undergraduate program devoted to the study of what we call legal studies. This BA Honours in Legal Studies program, I believe, is going to be a radical, revolutionary step with a view to advancing the cause of legal education that goes beyond the more narrow and myopic and limited imagination of becoming a lawyer to practice law. I say this also because of the fact that over the years, we have also recognized that a large number of students in India who have made the choices of going into a law school just after their high school and make a long-term commitment of 5 years with the future aspiration to becoming a lawyer, unfortunately end up becoming disappointed. Not so much because of the fact that they did not enjoy the study of law, nor also because of the fact that they didn't believe in the idea of law, but they were also not sure about the fact whether the 5-year commitment that they make, which is largely inflexible and is based upon a single narrative of legal education. The vision of the Bachelor of Arts Honors in Legal Studies is pluralistic. It's more diversified. It's more interdisciplinary. It engages law with other allied disciplines. But most importantly, it is flexible. It gives you leeway, and it also creates a more autonomous engagement for you to think about your future. In some ways, it gives you opportunity to pursue the study of law if you choose to, but it also creates opportunity for those of you who decide to go beyond the idea of studying law to become a lawyer, but also to use the study of law to pursue a variety of professions as you deem fit in the future. It also creates opportunities for you to have a more deeper and a more stronger and a more profound understanding of law that goes beyond the more doctrinal and case study method of studying law that dominates mostly the legal discourse when it comes to legal education. So in some ways, the Bachelor of Arts Honors in Legal Studies is not just something as an afterthought. It's not a sideshow. It's something so central and critical to the idea of a global law school that we have established at Jindal. In some ways, the time for this program has come. For a while, me and some colleagues of mine have been arguing about the fact that law is the new liberal arts. Law is the new humanities. Law is the new social sciences. If law is the new vision of liberal arts and humanities and social sciences, why not move beyond why not take the study of law to go beyond what the narrow frontiers of legal education have been confined to with regard to integrated law programs. And I'm not in any way undermining the study of law from that perspective. What I'm essentially arguing is that there is a case for more pluralistic approach towards the pursuit of legal studies, and that's exactly what the curriculum, the courses, the program, the pedagogy, the methodology, the faculty, and all the institutional mechanisms that have been created for you to pursue the study of Bachelor of Arts Honors Legal Studies at Jindal does. In a way, we are also very fortunate that the evolution of this particular program coincides with the recognition of Jindal Global Law School as India's #1 law school. Little did we know that 11 years ago, a university founded with the vision and philanthropic contribution of our founding chancellor and benefactor, Mr. Naveen Jindal, in the rural parts of India, in Haryana, in a place called Sonipat, which is in the environs of the Jagdishpur village, would end up becoming a power of legal education and higher education. And that's exactly what has happened. It has also paved way for new imaginations in higher education. And that journey, which began in a modest manner in 2009, has now ultimately culminated in OP Jindal Global University to be recognized as India's #1 private university by the QS World University Rankings, and the Jindal Global Law School to be ranked as India's #1 law school and among the top 101 to 150 law schools in the world. But this journey, this extraordinary evolution of OP Jindal Global University and Jindal Global Law School would not have been possible rather, without the extraordinary inspiration that we have received from a number of individuals. One such individual who inspired me personally, but also inspired our institution, is today the commencement speaker to welcome the incoming class, the inaugural class of the Bachelor of Arts Honors in Legal Studies. I have great pleasure in introducing and formally welcoming the chief guest of today's commencement lecture, Professor Marc L. Miller, Dean, and Ralph W. Bilby Professor at the James E. Rogers College of Law, University of Arizona, Tucson, United States. Professor Marc Miller is a distinguished scholar. Dean Miller taught at Emory University Law School from 1998 to 2005, where he served as Associate Dean for Faculty and Scholarship. He's a graduate of the University of Chicago Law School and Pomona College, which is one of the leading liberal arts college, and grew up in Los Angeles. Dean Miller writes and teaches about environmental law and policy and criminal law and policy. He is the author of more than 70 articles and essays on a wide range of environmental, criminal justice, immigration, and legal theory topics. He is editor of several case books on criminal procedure and sentencing, and co-founded the Federal Sentencing Reporter, the leading journal on sentencing law and policy, and a joint project of the Vera Institute of Justice and the University of California Press. He currently serves as the series editor for Summit's books focused on the intersection of environmental science, law, and policy. Dean Miller's scholarship addresses the nature of law. On the criminal side, current work includes a series of articles on the role and regulation of prosecutorial discretion, including a multi-year empirical evolution of prosecutorial decision-making. At a more general theoretical level, this work deals with policy making within executive branch agencies, especially in those areas not readily amenable to external judicial or legislative review. In fact, this work is quite important in India as well. His environmental work highlights topics at the intersection of environmental science, policy, and law, with special attention to the concept of sustainability and to the relationship between science and environmental policy making. Much of his environmental work is done in collaboration with natural and social scientists. At Arizona, Dean Miller serves as co-director of the Arizona Law Program in Criminal Law and Policy, and has joint and affiliated appointments with the University of Arizona Institute of the Environment, the Environmental Health Sciences Program of the University of Arizona, Zuckerman School of Public Health, and with the Global Change PhD minor, among other programs and institutes. He serves on various university committees, including a work group through the McGuire Center for Entrepreneurship at the Eller College of Management to create a new master's program focusing on capitalizing ventures. He also serves on the steering committee, developing a new graduate degree certificate program in American Indian Natural Resource, and as associate director for interdisciplinary education for the Arizona Telemedicine Program. Before teaching, Dean Miller served as law clerk to Chief Judge John Godball of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, as attorney advisor in the Office of Legal Counsel of the U.S. Department of Justice, and as special counsel at the Vera Institute of Justice in New York. Dean Miller has been a visiting professor at Stanford Law School and Duke Law School. Dean Miller is a member of the American Law Institute and an advisor to various criminal justice and environmental publications and organizations. Beyond all of this, Dean Miller belongs to that type of generation of leading scholars around the world who is not only a distinguished scholar, but a truly inspiring institution builder. A decade ago, Dean Miller envisaged the idea of a dual degree program and sought and indeed reached out to us on his own to build a partnership with Jindal Global Law School that saw the birth of probably the world's first dual degree program in the LLB and JD context. That program has grown from strength to strength, and a few more American law schools have adopted it. Dean Miller is deeply passionate about India and has visited our law school and other law schools in India. He was here at our 10th anniversary celebrations, and we are so delighted that we were deeply inspired by the fact that he began the BA Legal Studies program at his law school, and that gave birth to an idea that we could implement at Jindal Global Law School. So for all the students and parents and faculty who are watching this program, he is the most suited person to deliver the commencement lecture on this special occasion. With those words, I would like to formally invite and welcome Professor Marc Miller to deliver the commencement lecture. But before he does that, I have the privilege to welcome Professor Anand Prakash Mishra, the Director of Law Admissions at OP Jindal Global University and Associate Dean of Jindal Global Law School, to formally introduce the BA Honors Legal Studies class of 2020. Over to you, Anand.
Very good evening, everyone. A new program, a new class, a new academic year. This is indeed a great occasion, a historic day for us. BA Legal Studies Honors Program, which we started this year, is starting today with the commencement lecture by none other than Dean Marc Miller, who was the first dean among all American law schools to start a BA Legal Studies program in his own law school in University of Arizona. So it's a great day, and I am here to introduce the class of BA Legal Studies to our chief guest, Dean Marc Miller, to our Vice Chancellor and Dean of Law School, Professor Rajkumar, to our Executive Dean, Professor Srijit, to our other faculty members, and everyone there. And it's my delight and pleasure that in the very first batch, we have been able to attract and enroll students from 20 different states of the country. Typically, in COVID times, there was an apprehension that students may not be willing to travel outside their home state, outside their hometown and cities, and join universities in different states. We are based in the state of Haryana, and not even 10% of the class of BA Legal Studies is from the state of Haryana. 90% students are from outside Haryana. So the class of 150 students who have joined us, they come from, the major cities like Delhi, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Gurugram, Chandigarh, Kanpur, Mumbai, where minimum 5 to 10 students have joined. But the most interesting fact about this year's class is we have students from remote districts of our country, and they have joined the first undergraduate degree in legal studies at Jindal Global Law School in Sonipat from places like, say, Guntur and Kurnool and Anantapur in Andhra Pradesh. It's not just the bigger cities like Hyderabad and Vijayawada. Places like Agra, Ghazipur, Rampur and Saharanpur in UP. Places like East Champaran and Shivhar in Bihar. Places like Davangere and Mysore in Karnataka, from Katni and Gwalior and Harda and Jabalpur in Madhya Pradesh. I'm not taking the name of the capital cities. Of course, we have students from Patna and Lucknow and Bhopal and Indore, the bigger cities and the big metros. So it's like mini India within the class of BA Legal Studies this year, where you represent some 20 states, some 100+ different schools, and you represent almost entire country. And in the very first class of BA Legal Studies, I must say this kind of diversity is extremely encouraging and inspiring for all of us at the law school. From gender point of view, we have almost equal situation in BA Legal Studies class. We have 80 students who are male students and 70 female students. So it's almost, it's a little favorable to male candidates, but almost equal number of students, boys and girls, joining in this program. BA Legal Studies is a unique initiative of Jindal Global Law School. And I must tell all the students who have joined us that it also provides a pathway to the LLB 3-year program. After 2 years of your study, you will be given that opportunity if you perform academically well. I hope all of you have read the 3+3 pathway to the study of LLB degree at Jindal Global Law School. And I must tell you, the LLB class at Jindal, with every passing year, it's attracting the finest graduates from around the world. This year, we have graduates of University of Chicago. We have graduates from Nottingham and King's College, London. We have graduates from the Hong Kong University. We have graduates from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, UIUC. We have graduates from all top degree colleges in the country, including Lady Shram, SRCC, Stephen, Loyola College, Madras, St. Xavier's, Mumbai, and St. Xavier's, Kolkata, all top degree colleges in the country who have joined our LLB class. I am very, very excited that all our BA Legal Studies students are going to have the strongest foundation to study law when they join our LLB class in 2023, because you are doing a legal studies honors program, unlike other LLB students who study diverse subjects from economics to physics and from engineering to dentistry, whatever. So it's a great occasion that way. I can see students coming from Gurdaspur and Hoshiarpur in Punjab, not just Chandigarh. Students coming from Hisar, Karnal, and Kurukshetra, from places like Kashipur in Uttarakhand to East Champaran, Motihari in Bihar. It's a diverse class, which, I mean, only strengthens our faith in the aspirations of young India, the students who are willing to travel even in this COVID situation and join a campus in Sonipat, Haryana, many of them from Coimbatore and many other cities in South, in Kerala, from West Bengal, from almost 20 different states. So it's very, very encouraging for me. I'm sure in due course, this program will gain eminence in the country. But I must tell all the students that it's already a very, very prestigious degree program around the world. And law is taught all over the world in a postgraduate program format, including all 200 schools in the United States, where they teach the Juris Doctor or JD qualification, and even the Bachelor of Law degree traditionally taught in Indian universities as well. So apart from other things, my colleagues will tell you about the various aspects of this program, and you have already started experiencing it in your classrooms. But I must tell you, this is one decision you will be absolutely proud of in 2023, that you decided to join BA Legal Studies Honors Program in the first batch at Jindal Global Law School. So with these words, I will like to again welcome you all and congratulate all the students to Jindal Global Law School, to Sonipat, to our campus, and I look forward to see all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Over to you, Lakshmi.
Thank you, sir, for such a lucid articulation of the details and the intent of this program and introducing our class of 2020. BA Honors Legal Studies is indeed an innovative program with a unique purpose and a diverse student body, as I see. Now I welcome my colleague, Ms. Kanika, who will present the rest of the program for this evening.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment has come for the most awaited talk of the event. So without any further ado, I invite Professor Marc F. Miller, Dean, and Ralph W. Bilby Professor at James E. Rogers College of Law, University of Arizona. Sir, I welcome you to deliver the commencement lecture. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Let me begin by congratulating all of you, the new students in the BA Honors of Legal Studies, and congratulations to your families for the exciting path they will share with you and the support they have provided. Vice Chancellor Kumar noted that I have long been interested in Indian society, history, economics, politics, and education. Indeed, around your age, only slightly older, and early in my own college career, I began my path not only with study of Indian history, but living in Lucknow, UP. I've returned many times since, most often in the past decade, to watch, visit, celebrate, and help where I can in the creation and growth of Jindal Global University. Jindal Global University is a very, very special place. No university anywhere has moved as far, as fast, and as brilliantly as JGU in the past decade. And Jindal Global Law School has become a premier school, first a premier school starting the path for the larger university, and second, among legal educators worldwide. You should be proud to be a student there now, and you will get a great education. That pride will only grow over time. You have a great leader in Vice Chancellor Kumar. He is indeed a good friend, but I put myself in the company of many scholars and leaders around the world who have noted and watched closely, gotten to know him and your other professors because of the extraordinary work they are doing as scholars, as teachers, and as innovators. The world has taken note. And now you are the first students in a unique program, the BA Honors in Legal Studies. In a normal year, which this is most certainly not, I would have been in Sonipat on the JGU campus to welcome you in person. But we all must live now with more digital interactions than we had and perhaps than we wanted. We're all getting better at digital engagement. Working with people through devices will indeed define much of our professional interactions going forward. Not your full educational career, which I hope will soon be on the beautiful campus, but the expertise and knowledge we pick up in terms of learning and working together will be a plus, a benefit in your careers. And please look at this as a silver lining to a very dark cloud. So I encourage you to look at a newspaper, or for those who haven't held or seen a newspaper in memory, look at the online news source of your choice. Look in the US, look at Indian papers. On any random day, if you look for law, you will find it everywhere. Public and private, comparative and international. Think of COVID. Looking at the US, you would see just in the past week headlines on regulatory issues around convalescent plasma, whether the Food and Drug Administration in the US had properly vetted and approved for limited use that treatment. It's not the first therapeutic where this issue has come up. Look at the Centers for Disease Control in the US, questions of their legal authority and responsibility and their behavior within that broad mandate and trust. Look at articles and discussions over private and public engagement in the development or delivery of vaccines, questions of equality, of justice, of the interface of science and policy come up day after day. Look at more immediately at university plans for the implementation of how to engage in effective education in the time of COVID. Look at issues of liability, look at issues of management. Look at private business insurance and the extraordinary pressures being put on businesses, large and small, there, here, and throughout the world. And the law that guides and will help to constrain and hopefully enable a path through these challenging times. That's just one very specific example. In the US Congress, there are active debates right now on potential liability waivers for US businesses as a way to encourage the restart of economic activity, all of it, we should hope, done with the safety of our larger communities over time at its heart. Or move away from COVID and look at the social disruption. Let me focus on the US and not India for a moment. The emergence of a greater recognition of racial justice through the Black Lives Matter movement, questions of the regulation of police and of behavior by civilians, the right to protest, and then complex conversations about how societies move towards justice and equality, a conversation that India knows as well as the US in its own distinctive and extraordinary history and efforts. Or look at elections. We have a huge election coming up in the US, and the issues of voting rights and regulation, voting by mail. Again, law is the central theme around what is allowed, what must be done, what cannot be done. Or look at economy and put yourself aside from the social and health challenges of the day, though they're not unrelated, but think about huge issues over trade, industrial policy, monetary policy. Think of the role of small businesses in economic growth and how law enables or constrains that evolution. Think of the law of labor and employment, or the emergence of the gig economy. Think of the broader implications of the fourth industrial revolution for how we all live, how families work, where we function, and the role the law has in that. So there are pervasive legal issues that have emerged in both the private and public sphere, which with your training, you will be situated, whether you follow the long-term legal path or go into business or go into politics or go on down any future path, where you will help to provide knowledge and shape it. Issues of privacy, of cybersecurity, of the management of social media, of the creation and support of new families and new business arrangements, among just a few illustrations. When I look at Indian news organizations, I see many of the same issues, I see many different issues, but I see law everywhere. Or you could talk to someone in business or in government and ask whether they are aware of and must adapt to or accommodate law, or are frustrated by law, or wish the laws were different. Whether the industry or business is heavily regulated or not, I think you would find a vociferous and open answer from anyone you spoke with. And the answer would be, there is much law and much regulation in life. And I like this and I don't like this and I wish for this, but law is everywhere. We live in a pervasively legalized and regulated time. This may be good, it may be bad. You can be for or opposed to the legalization of so much in life. That is a fair and appropriate question, and one I'm sure you will discuss and address in your program. But the modern world is heavily legalized and regulated, and understanding that world is an advantage for work, for life, and for further study. Let me look for a moment at the US legal market to give a sense of the market I know best. But I do this in part because the understanding of how law is changing and the demand for legal services changing is actually not reflected in many current articles and in many current sources of data. So if you look at the US Department of Labor statistics on future job growth, readily available on the internet, what you would see is first that current employment for traditional JD law graduates is strong. And second, you would see that there is reasonable, modest growth expected for lawyers over the next decade. Somewhere between 4 and other Department of Labor studies suggest 5 to 8% growth. If you look for the growth of the one other formal existing category of legal professional, paralegals, you'd see an expectation of a 12% growth rate. And if you looked at associated professions, arbitrators, mediators, and legal support workers, you'd see growth of 8 and 9%. Looking at this data, I think would be a bad misreading of what is happening in our profession. Legal needs haven't gone away, they have grown. I mentioned privacy, I mentioned cyber, IP, biotech, driverless cars, drones. Think of issues of migration, civil rights, family, employment, business. I've mentioned some of these categories. In every one of them, changes taking place, and for some, they are new and emerging, and they call for people who understand and can navigate legal and regulated spaces. Many of them fall under the heading of compliance, business compliance, regulatory compliance, securities laws, and so forth. Lawyers or those trained in law are the ones who are best situated to address and work in those broad domains. So what is happening in law and legal services? Well, one huge pressure worldwide is a call for a growth in efficiency. Law has not been an efficient profession in the US or in India or in most places in the world. But there are interesting responses. One is commodification, especially for personal legal services. In the US, we see that with tools such as LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer. There's also legal services management, especially by sophisticated clients, which has pushed legal providers, firms and individuals to be more effective, more wise about when legal services are needed and how they are deployed. We've seen this in the expansion of in-house counsel, who then regulate and manage services for businesses. We've seen it in the substitution of legal services by non-lawyers for lawyers. For much of the world, accounting firms provide substantial legal services, and that is not true in the US because of limits on non-lawyer ownership, but those are starting to change. We see it in the different staffing and the diversification of law firms and other legal settings. Who is there, what training they have. And all of this calls for innovation. Innovation in who provides legal services and how they're provided, in where they are delivered. And you embody that. You literally embody that. In the past, in the US and in India, there were essentially only two kinds of legal professionals. There were licensed attorneys, lawyers, and paralegals. The precise categories vary across country, but that's what existed. At the same time, over recent decades, the health professions, business, accounting, we look at other professions and we've seen radical diversification. There are something like 17 or 20 different kinds of nurses. Why would there be 17 kinds of nurses and only two kinds of legal profession? Part of the answer to that is the legal profession has in fact been differentiating, but it has not done so in terms of training and degrees. It has done so in fact on the ground when you look at legal service providers. Many people working in firms and other regulated settings have other kinds of training. But what the moment has called for is people with training in law and regulation. Globally, we see that legal services are now provided across borders. The same technology which allows us to speak together today allows services to be provided at a distance, and again, allows innovation to occur. We also see fascinating innovation taking place more locally. Here in the US, I'm very proud that Arizona is one of the leaders. Other states in the US to keep an eye on include Utah and California. But let me focus on Arizona for a moment, in part because I'm sitting there, in part because it's a place I hope you'll consider spending some time studying in the future, in part because I know it well. On August 27th, that's last week, Arizona passed critical reforms that will expand access to justice and do so by involving people without the traditional JD or paralegal training. The Arizona Supreme Court created a new category of limited licensed practitioners, LLPs. Let me read the statement issued by the court to explain it. Referred to as LLPs in the task force report, the first regulatory framework addresses the legal paraprofessional model that would authorize non-lawyers to directly provide limited legal representation to clients. In many ways, LPs would be the legal system's equivalent of a nurse practitioner in the medical field. Those interested in becoming LPs would have to meet education and experience requirements, pass a professional abilities examination, and pass a character and fitness process. Successful candidates would be affiliate members of the state bar and would be subject to the same ethical rules and discipline process as lawyers. There was a second critical innovation from the Arizona Supreme Court, again, last week, and that is permission to have non-lawyers co-own or own legal services providers. That was the barrier I mentioned historically in the US to having, for example, accounting firms provide legal services. And the Supreme Court describes it briefly this way. Another significant rule change authorized by the court was the elimination of the ethical rule that barred non-lawyers from fee sharing and barred non-lawyers from having economic interests in a law firm. The regulatory framework addresses this change, requires businesses called alternative business structures to be licensed. In these two changes here in Arizona, you see a window into the transformation of legal services and the legal profession, first across the US, but also worldwide. The drivers of change are the drivers I have nodded to: the pressure of markets, the opportunities of technology, the opportunities, pressures, and challenges of globalization, and the fact that we live in increasingly complex and rapidly changing societies. Let me offer a brief warning along with this exciting, I hope, and optimistic view of innovation and change. The change I describe will take place over the objection of legal elites and institutions. The Arizona Supreme Court did not ask the lawyers in this state, of which there are about 20,000 licensed attorneys, to vote on the LPs or on non-lawyer ownership. They did ask for input, and that input was substantial and critical. The Utah Supreme Court also this year did not ask lawyers in that state to vote on creating a regulatory sandbox for legal innovation. They asked for input. They welcomed discussion. But in both cases, those courts took the bold step of innovating and leading. They came about, these innovations, despite the objection of professionals and power structures, not because of it. Like the legal profession more broadly, legal education and higher education have not generally been considered innovative sectors. There are many reasons university buildings are made out of steel, glass, concrete, and bricks, including the beautiful buildings on the Jindal campus and the lovely central structure. But just because the building is set in cement and held up by steel does not keep the people or ideas within it from taking place. And indeed, Jindal Global University and Jindal Global Law School represent the best of innovation, as I have mentioned, even with a beautiful and in some ways traditional campus to be your home. Here in the U of A, as has been noted, we started the first Bachelor of Arts in Law. It is akin to your BA honors in legal studies, and it is, by all accounts, those within it, those who teach, and those who then learn and work with its graduates, a glorious degree. From the perspective of, well, really the world outside the US, what we did in creating the BA in Law was not so radical. As you know, much of legal education, indeed most of legal education has in India, China, Mexico, well, pretty much everywhere, been an undergraduate, long-term undergraduate course of study. But in the US, this was radical. The US decided, and indeed Thomas Jefferson had a hand, that if there was to be formal legal study, it would be at a professional level. The University of Arizona, 8 years ago, created the first BA in Law in the US. And we now have about 1,300 students in that major. It has been an engine of access and diversity. It was lovely to hear about the breadth of backgrounds, geographic backgrounds, for all of you who are in this program, the breadth of educational backgrounds. That diversity in your experiences will itself bring enormous value to this program. The BA in Law has been a basis for extraordinary global partnerships with Jindal, but with universities around the world. And it has been fantastic for the students involved. It has opened doorways to graduate and professional study and to work. This should be a very good sign for all of you. Let me mention, we have also created a non-law master's degree, which we deliver both in person and online. And it responds to the same broad point I'm making, which is that the world, business, individuals, institutions, private and public, need to understand law and regulation to succeed and prosper. But there are many professionals who want to study law, but don't have the goal, or the goal yet, of becoming a licensed attorney. People in regulated industries, journalists, economics teachers, legislators. Those are just some of the people who have come to our master's degree. And indeed, we opened up a track for our master's degree in law and economics just this past summer, we already have 8% of the Arizona legislature in our master's program taking classes as an indication of the demand, the need to understand law. Of course, with legislators, it's not hard to understand that they see higher education as a way to improve their own ability to legislate is the insight here worth noting. In India, the BA in Legal Studies represents a new path. Indeed, I think it's a new path for all of Asia. So I congratulate JGU and each of you for being a part of it. It's important to recognize, and it's been noted already, that you are pioneers, but this degree will quickly become familiar. It is not hard to understand, and it is not hard to explain, and others will follow. But your bold decision to be in the first cohort, the first class, will serve you well. Throughout your career, you will be able to say, I was the first. I changed the law. I changed the legal profession by getting the BA honors in legal studies at Jindal Global University. Let me offer a few final comments, and then if there is time, I welcome questions now, or let me emphasize at any point in the future, should you have it, the tie between the University of Arizona and Jindal Global University is deep and ongoing. First, enjoy the experience. You're a student at an elite university with a great faculty of teachers and scholars. Indeed, you're a student at one of the most energetic universities in the world. And others in the US, others around India will watch your progress closely. Enjoy the path. Second, as has been noted, the BA Honors in Legal Studies will open the door to the LLB for those of you who want to continue and do the 3+3. That may be a great path. For our BA and law students, about 40% have gone on to get a JD within 2 years of the degree. But the critical point about your degree and ours is the breadth of doors that it opens. It could open a door directly to employment, to advanced study in business, to participation in politics, to participation in legal settings, yet not in a licensed attorney role. You can be an innovator, you can drive legal change. So I'm not discouraging you from the ultimate path of licensure or encouraging you down a different path. I am emphasizing that what you have chosen to do, what we have chosen to do, is broad and expands option and doors. That is the consequence of the fact that you will have a solid foundation in the law. It is a consequence of the fact that there is a need for people who can navigate legal and regulated settings. It is a consequence of the fact that law is everywhere. Thank you for listening to my comments. Again, my hearty congratulations to you and your families. And if there are questions now or later, again, I welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marc, for that fascinating commencement lecture. In fact, your lecture actually would resonate with so many people's, aspirations, but also their doubts and concerns as they embark on this particular vision. In fact, it's quite remarkable that a country like in India, where there are 40,000 plus colleges and nearly 1,000 universities and 1,650 plus law schools, with a higher education system that clearly is one of the largest higher education system, no university, no law school has ever envisaged till today the idea of a Bachelor of Arts honors in legal studies. And that is where the uniqueness of what we are embarking today, but also the potential of the kind of opportunities that the students who have joined this program will have. And I'm grateful to you for sharing your ideas, your perspectives, and most importantly, your experience. We have received a few questions and I'm going to ask them, which can potentially address some of those issues. So for the students in India, now I had the privilege to study an undergraduate degree in Bachelor of Commerce over 25 years ago, after which I studied my 3-year LLB, which is like the JD in the United States. Now, of course, for the last nearly over 20 years or so, maybe 25 years or so, the most obvious preferred option for young people to study law in India has been the 5-year integrated BA LLB or the BBA LLB program. These students who have joined the BA honors in legal studies are obviously concerned about the fact that they have chosen a different path. What, as some would say, the road not taken. So my question to you is that, how can they make this experience most meaningful for them as they think about the future, both in the pursuit of law, to pursue their LLB if they choose to, or to branch out to other walks of life as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our experience here should give comfort to all the students in the program there. The 3 years are a chance not only to learn valuable knowledge and engage with great fellow students and professors, but a chance to decide on whether or not that longer term path is the right path. If students want to pursue the LLB, whether it's there at Jindal and the 3-3 or other schools, our experience is that the Bachelor of Arts Honors in Legal Studies, or for us, the Bachelor of Arts in Law, is favored, privileged by other law schools. And it puts students in an extraordinary advantaged position if they pursue that path, because they have the fundamental building blocks, pieces, ways of thinking in place, and can now take it to another level. I'm reminded of a question that was posed to one of our early graduates who went on to my alma mater, the University of Chicago, for her JD. And she engaged in an experience like this, a digital exchange with people who said to her, was it boring to go on and do the JD because you had studied the basic building blocks of the law and now you were doing advanced study? So was that a mistake? And she laughed. And she said, first, the degree was privileged by Chicago and other schools. I got into top law schools throughout the US because they understood it to be unique and valuable. Second, she said, I felt pushed in my bachelor's program, but I'm pushed harder at a higher level in the JD. And she said, to return to a case like Brown versus Board of Education, or any of the fundamental cases, or any of the fundamental documents of law, and if you are not still excited, then you've made a very bad professional choice. These fundamental ideas of justice, of equality, of truth, of efficiency, the essential building blocks of human rights, of contracts, torts, of property, and so forth. If you find them uninteresting, then this is not the right career. And if you are excited by them, then the study will not just be in the BA and then in the LLB or a JD, but it will be throughout your life. And we return to these topics forever. For the majority of our graduates who have gone on to do something else, they have found the degree equally valuable. It has been privileged by management consultants who have hired them, and HR and environmental compliance and contract management. And the range of jobs is so great, we stopped listing it. We were asked, what path does this lead to? And when you have 4 pages of different jobs, adding another page doesn't tell you much. So I would say to the students, enjoy what you're doing. Over the 3 years, get a sense of how excited you are by the idea of a career which goes to a wonderful, but as you noted, Raja, somewhat more specific path as a licensed attorney, and you will be in a position to succeed whatever you do next.
Thank you very much for that, Marc. Marc, there's another very interesting question that is also possibly kind of an aspirational question. There are obviously students who are already deeply committed to the study of law and are coming into the BA Legal Studies. In fact, we've had students who had the option to study in the 5-year law program, but actually chose to join the BA Legal Studies, and that's quite remarkable as well. So in a way, this question is about the fact that if they were to plan a future that is going to be in law itself, what are the things that students should be doing as they pursue the BA Legal Studies, given its curriculum and courses, while has significant presence of law, but the pedagogy of teaching and learning is obviously going to be different from what it is when you do, let's say, the LLB or the JD?
Yes, so I looked through the curriculum and it looks wonderful. I thought it was a very exciting curriculum. The answer I would give is consume everything you can and meet every person you can who is in the law. So the opportunities at JGU to hear speakers, to go to workshops, to go to seminars. I mean, I've never been there when there wasn't a dozen things taking place in any week and major lectures coming and things that happened in the past. And so the opportunity both on the campus for now digitally, but over time to basically suck up, consume every bit of law that you can. So what you're saying to me is, what if someone knows they want to be a musician? And the path, they've started down the path and they've chosen this somewhat different foundation, learning the theory of music, learning some of the fundamentals. I would still say, go to every performance you can, practice, 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 read, talk. I mean, you have an incredible network now from the decade of law graduates, and Vice Chancellor Kumar, you and your colleagues have networks around the world. So that is what I would do. If you are already committed to this path, consume not just in your classes what you must do, but everything else, and make law a pervasive part of your life. For those of us who love it, this is a joy, not a burden.
Thank you so much, Marc, for that. That was a very compelling response. Marc, there's another very interesting perspective that is emerging, and I would love to hear from you, your experience in your own law school. A few years ago, when we did some data analytics of our own, let's say, law graduates from our BA LLB and BB LLB program, we found that little over 20% of them are actually moving out of law in the sense of not part of anything that we would call legal profession, as in they are not becoming a litigator, they are not joining a law firm, they are not working as an in-house counsel, they are not even working for an NGO doing law-related work, but they actually are becoming, as you said, entrepreneurs working for business entities. They are creating companies, working in corporations, business enterprises, even think tanks, research institutions, not necessarily in the field of law. And I asked some of those graduates about it, and when I asked them, what did you gain out of law school, and did the law degree even, or the law knowledge of law, did they help you? And they mentioned their profound, inspiration, and it has helped their own journey when they are actually not doing something directly related to law. So I want to ask you, both in terms of the experience, but also for those students of BA Legal Studies, let's say the 50+% of your students who are not entering into the legal profession as we understand.
Yeah, so it has been increasingly common in recent decades, even for those with the full JD or LLB, the license, to do things that we would not consider the traditional practice of law. Not in a law firm, not with a attorney-client relationship and all the privileges that attach. This goes to the power of training in legal thought, legal doctrine, legal process. It goes to a point I believe you made earlier, which is law has fundamental roots in the liberal arts, in understanding our society and how our society works. So this goes back to my point about opening doors. Let me mention two graduates of the University of Arizona, both working in Seattle, both with JDs, one of whom is in a legal position, very high profile legal position, and one of whom is not. They're both at high tech companies, and they both would tell you that every day they put their legal training to use. So one is Dev Stalkov. She's the general counsel of Microsoft. Great position, interesting company to be the chief lawyer for. Another is Mike Miller, who's one of the senior division leads at Amazon, handling all third-party relationships and moving toward a lot of voice in pricing. He is not in a legal position. He's not in the general counsel's office. He's not a lawyer to Amazon. But if you talk to Mike Miller, he would tell you that every single day he puts his legal training to use, the clarity of thinking that he can bring to issues, the questions he can ask of others. So here he is in this high-tech business and innovation-centered spot. He would tell you that his law degree was critical to that. So we have graduates who start down that path. One of the things that Mike Miller and Dev Stalkov would tell all the new members of the BA Honors in Legal Studies is there are emerging jobs for which training doesn't exist. Chief compliance officers and privacy officers who are not in the legal counsel, but they must understand the complex US, European, and Indian privacy law. I've had meetings in India on visits with you. I've met both in Delhi and in the South with institutes working on privacy issues and the alignment around the world. Many of those people are licensed attorneys. They're obviously not in practice. Some are trained in technology and they have to work their way up and learn the law. So to me, there's no plus or minus. There's only a plus in that, in the world I've described, which I think I could justify not only in a half-hour talk, but in a 10-hour talk. I mean, we can go down layers and layers. The training that the students in this program, as well as in the traditional LLB program, or as well as those who do 3-3, create pathways to do new and different things. And over decades, we've seen the skills of lawyers put to use in other settings. Happily for those people trained in law, happily for the rest of society, because the values we bring are critical to a free, just, and prosperous society.
Thank you so much, Marc. We are conscious of your time and your presence. One of the things that our students will be very keen to hear from you is that what kind of opportunities that our students of the BA Honors in Legal Studies can get, particularly with the partnership that we have together with your law school, because as we know, your law school is quite uniquely situated in the United States as one of our distinguished partners. Not only that you are a renowned and a reputed law school, but you also have a BA Honors in Legal Studies. So from the standpoint of our students who are pursuing the BA Honors in Legal Studies, what can they expect from the partnership that both our institutions have?
Yeah, so we have now a long tradition, and it's long. It can only be 10 years long, but or 11 years long. But for the history of Jindal, we've had students coming into our advanced law programs, and those doors would be open to the BA Honors and Legal Studies students. So that could be for a master's degree, it could be for a JD. Someone might choose to be licensed here, but have the fundamental legal training in India. These combinations are multifold. I should mention, there is a Jindal graduate now who not only came to the US to get her JD, and she is working on her SJD, she is the head of the entire graduate student body. Shilpita Sen is here. And so Jindal students have been a wonderful part of our programs. It could also be a dual undergraduate path, but once the student has completed 3 years, they might choose instead to move on directly to graduate study, and we can absolutely do that. The other possibility, and we should discuss this, is the course of study is pretty specific for this program, but if we can align a sufficient number of classes, we would always welcome students completing your degree program, the BA Honors in Legal Studies, but with classes here at the University of Arizona. And this is a beautiful place to live and work. So I think of the doors as wide open. And again, when we are past, and we will get past, the limitations of travel imposed by COVID. And I think in the not too distant future, not only will I be back to meet these students in person, and my colleagues come to give lectures and work with your colleagues, but we could discuss throughout this first year and going forward, the specific advice for any student who's interested. So.
Thank you very much, Marc. And maybe I'll have the last question. This question is really about what, in your opinion, is the future of the legal profession at a time when companies and corporations and business enterprises are being challenged fundamentally due to the COVID-19 crisis, at a time when both liberal democracies and other types of societies are expressing skepticism towards globalization and are increasingly having a more myopic approach towards issues that bring all of us together as humanity, at a time when some of the more fundamental aspects of rule of law and democratic institutions are under threat. What do you think is the future of legal profession and how legal education can potentially influence that future for the better?
So I think we're in a profession that is going through and will go through profound changes. The students now in the BA in Legal Studies program, or in the LLB program, or in our JD program, or in our BA program, will, in the course of their careers, see the profession radically transformed. The basic categories and the reasons I described before, but you've added another dimension. And that dimension is we live at a very scary time. Part of what is interesting is to see that the role of lawyers has become more respected. I might say again, there was certainly a time when lawyers were seen and should be seen as an incredibly honorable profession, or legal trained people more generally. And then there was a period of time, to some extent in India, certainly in the US, where the profession was cast in a more critical light. The reason for advocacy was not understood. The fundamental value of the rule of law and the values that lawyers embody, due process and so forth, were not understood. I think long predating COVID, that changed. The lawyers as first responders, lawyers as people who can protect individuals and who can enable institutions to succeed and who can ultimately help societies function and resolve and mediate their disputes and protect and enhance dignity, is now widely recognized. How we will do that is going to change. I mentioned before that much of our futures will be digital. We're forced to that now. And the students in this program, you will love being on the Jindal campus. It's a beautiful campus, and having one-on-one and group discussions is still a vital and beautiful part of education. But much of the work we do for clients and others will be in this space, and you are learning to do that. And there, I think the training from the standpoint of what law schools do, there's two big dimensions. One is research. We haven't discussed this much, but it goes back to your earlier question to me, which is I would encourage every student in this program and all your programs to think critically. You've got a set of professors who are first tier scholars and engaged in not only the domestic, but global discussion and battle over ideas. And students should be a part of that. Research is not something that is done by faculty and scholars, and students must learn and ultimately they can be allowed into the room. Go to the lectures, raise questions, join in the research enterprise, write and think critically. The second in training is I think we'll find ourselves training in a wider and wider variety of ways. More people who are not getting the traditional law degrees. So again, this program is illustrative. It's a light that shines towards precisely that future. But we'll also be training professionals. I know here at the U of A, we train many people now in the health professions and others, sometimes with single courses, sometimes with certificates, sometimes full degrees. But the traditional model of showing up on a campus in the fall and doing a multi-year program and graduating will still exist. And it will still be important, but there will be so much more. I think firms will be smaller. I think more of us will work from multiple locations and home. I think our professions, our professional lives, not just as lawyers, but as legally trained people, will be more mobile. I expect that many of the people in this class will do some of their work in India, and some in the US, and some in Europe, and some in Australia, and some in China, and some in Africa. And that will just be part of the connectedness. And in terms of globalization, I think it's, the challenges are real. I don't mean to diminish them. I don't disagree. This is a scary time. But if you read the New York Times article the other day, the percentage of products produced in trade coming from China, even in the midst of the US-China battles over trade, has increased, not decreased, despite tariffs and despite what might be perceived as a direct attack on globalization. I think the connections, links, and forces are so deep. And by the way, India as a country and a society and an economy will be so central to this future we're describing over the next set of decades, that the students in this program, yes, their world will look different. They will help to change it and design it. But what a moment to be trained in the law.
Well, thank you so much, Marc, for that fascinating commencement lecture, but also your candidness, your ability to answer those questions in a manner that deeply reflects your own knowledge, perspectives, and experience, but also resonating with the kind of aspirations that the students have. For all the students who have joined the BA Honors in Legal Studies at Jindal Global Law School and including their parents, all I can say is that we will leave no stone unturned to make the experience of the students most fulfilling, truly transformative, and deeply engaging. We have already decided to open up all our international collaborative opportunities, including the partnership that we have with the University of Arizona College of Law, with Indiana, with Harvard, with Berkeley, with Oxford, with Fletcher, and many other partnerships around the world, so that the BA Honors in Legal Studies students are able to fulfill the same experiences that any other student of Jindal Global Law School has. It is also important for us to recognize that the study of law in this form and manifestation with 3+3 opportunity to pursue legal education, in my view, is going to be truly engaging given the kind of time and space that one has for the pursuit of law along with the study of humanities and social sciences. As you know, we have also created a pathway for our students as they complete their 2 years of education in the BA Honors in Legal Studies. They will be given an opportunity to be enrolled into the 3-year LLB program at Jindal Global Law School, a pathway that is directly available for the students of BA Honors in Legal Studies at Jindal, with which they having the first right of refusal. On that basis, they would enroll into the 3-year program. Such has been the possibilities that have been created for the students. And as Marc and Anand and Srijit and my colleagues here have said, this program, I believe, and all of us believe, is going to define the future of legal education in India, not only in reimagining the 3+3 based framework of graduate legal education, but also to create a more wider and a more diverse and a more pluralistic imagination of the study of law. With those words, I would like to once again congratulate the students of the pioneering batch of the BA Honors in Legal Studies at Jindal Global Law School. With those words, I would now call upon Kanika to take forward the next part of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Up next, to introduce the different academic committees here at Jindal Global Law School, I welcome the Director of Undergraduate Programs, Professor Karan Latyan. Professor Latyan is also an Assistant Professor and an Assistant Dean here at Jindal Global Law School. Over to you, Professor Latyan.
Good evening, everyone. At the start of a new academic year, I find myself feeling excited and eager for the year to come. This year, although the global pandemic has dampened the festivities ever so slightly, it has been unable to extinguish my optimism. And for this, I'm grateful to the incoming class of 2020 for giving Jindal Global Law School its much needed annual dose of fervor and hope. My name is Karan Latyan, and when I'm not teaching commercial laws, I am the Director of Undergraduate Programs at JGLS. I work with a team of 21 young and passionate faculty members who are committed to assisting the students of the 3-year BA Honors in Legal Studies program with respect to their curricular and extracurricular activities. Some of the most important portfolios that my office looks after are, number 1, attendance. At JGLS, we don't have a philosophical approach to attendance. Accordingly, in the interest of uniformity, all students are required to maintain a minimum of 70% attendance to be eligible to appear for end-term examinations. Number 2, mentorship. Soon you will realize that law school is as demanding as it is rewarding. We at JGLS recognize this. And through our mentorship programs, we aim to assist the students whenever they reach out. Mentorship assistance is not just limited to academics, but goes over and above. Therefore, please feel free to contact us in case you need any kind of support. And number 3, examinations. To graduate, students of the 3-year BA Honors in Legal Studies program are required to have a total of 148 credits. Since majority of these credits will be earned through mandatory and elective courses, We urge you to be up to date with respect to the examination policies and guidelines issued by the examination deans from time to time. We will soon share with you the student's handbook that contains all student-facing policies, including the ones discussed here. In addition to the student's handbook, JGLS has also formulated an academic action plan for the fall 2020 semester to promote flexibility and convenience for both students and faculty members. A wonderful feature of the action plan is that it seeks to decrease the stress associated with academics while simultaneously promoting the highest academic standards. I urge you to go through this document as well. It goes without saying that my team and I will always be available to guide you with respect to these policies. So do not hesitate to contact my office whenever required. In the end, I would like to leave you with a quote by C.S. Lewis, which is, "You never know what you can do until you try, and very few try unless they have to." In light of this quote, never hesitate to try, to take on new challenges, and to embark on new adventures at JGLS. Believe in yourself no matter what, and remember to live your law school days to the fullest potential, without any fear or regret. And once we make it through this pandemic, I look forward to meeting you all on our beautiful campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Latyan, for this very meticulous description. I now invite Professor Sridhar Patnaik, Honorable Registrar of OP Jindal Global University, to present the concluding remarks. Professor.
Thank you so much, everyone. Well, I must say, what a pleasure and what a great pleasure. The occasion is indeed historic, and it's etched in stone now, because we take great pride in stating that this is the first program at a level of interdisciplinarity that we started in law, not only in the university, but also in the country. So I congratulate each one of you for gaining admission into this milestone, first of its kind of a program in India. And it's also very enriching listening to Professor Marc Miller on the topic Law is Everywhere, the need for more paths in legal education and practice, that aptly captures the entire scope and idea of the BA Honors in Legal Studies, and also studying at the Jindal Global Law School of the OP Jindal Global University. I must tell you one thing, as captured by our speaker and even other distinguished colleagues on the panel. You pursue law and you might want to become a lawyer. You pursue BA Honors in Legal Studies, you have multiple options. You can go on further to pursue a degree in law, or you may choose to become whatever you dream of and whatever you intend to become. You can become a historian, you can become an artist, but law is everywhere, because there are twin inevitabilities in life. One is law and the other one is finance. So it's a very good decision that you made by joining the BA Honors in Legal Studies. There were a number of attempts made in the country to promote legal studies as a non-law discipline at various levels within the framework of higher education. But nonetheless, the larger approach taken was a social justice kind of a mission. But here what you have is a very comprehensive mission, as enumerated by our distinguished commencement speaker, Professor Marc Miller. And you do have an opportunity to thrive on the rich pedagogical continuum of law and allied disciplines by being a part of the Jindal Global Law School and the OP Jindal Global University, because you will have an opportunity even to read and understand the relevant subjects from other schools of the university as well, because this is a university which is thriving on the fulcrum of law, humanities, and social sciences. So you will have quite an enriching time All you need to do is to develop a sense of purpose and develop a sense of perspective, which I'm borrowing from our commencement speaker from the lecture that we got to hear last evening as part of our master's program in law. And these qualities and such an approach to learning is indeed important for you to have your own pathway, your own vision, and to understand the factuals and even to understand the counterfactuals. And that will make your stay at Jindal all the more fascinating because, mind you, being a university student is a great responsibility and a privilege. And being at Jindal is such a wonderful opportunity because the university is such an egalitarian space. But all you need to do is take up responsibility for yourself and towards your learning, towards the community, and follow the university regulations and respect the spaces and diversity. And you cannot find a more enchanting space and place than the JGU because the place is full of ideas and born harmony. Therefore, I request you to take fullest advantage of the learning and co-curricular and extracurricular activities that you will be provided with as part of the university and thrive. And on this particular note, and before I close, I take this opportunity to thank our commencement speaker and our Vice Chancellor for his vision, leadership, and unstinting energy and enthusiasm that made this milestone program possible, and all my fellow colleagues and travelers, Professor Srijit, Professor Anand Mishra, Professor Lakshmi Srinivasan, and Ms. Kanika, and others who are part of this wonderful evening. And I also thank my other colleagues from the Office of Information Technology, Office of Communications, and all other relevant offices, including the Office of Admissions and Outreach, for making this evening a possibility. Before I end, I would like to congratulate each one of you once again. Make the best of the opportunities that you are going to be provided with. And welcome to the university and the law school once again. Thank you so much. The program has ended now.
Thank you very much to all of you. And thank you so much, Marc. And thank you to all of you. Can you believe it? We have ended the program at 7:59 p.m. 8 o'clock was our scheduled ending. Thank you.
Well, maybe that's because your speaker stayed to 30 minutes.
Yes, you did.